The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the sea, to the territory of Gerasenes. When he got out of the boat, at once a man from the tombs, who had an unclean spirit, met him. The man had been dwelling among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any longer, even with a chain. In fact, he had frequently been bound with shackles and chains, but the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles smashed, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the hillsides, he was always crying out and bruising himself with stones. Catching sight of Jesus from a distance, he ran up and prostrated himself before him, crying out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, do not torment me." He had been saying to him, "Unclean spirit, come out of the man." He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Legion is my name, there are many of us." And he pleaded earnestly with him not to drive them away from that territory. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there on the hillside, and they pleaded him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." And he led them, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down a steep bank into the sea, there where they were drowned. The swineherds ran away and reported the incident in the town and throughout the countryside. And people came out to see what had happened. As they approached Jesus, they caught sight of the man who had been possessed by legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. And they were seized with fear. Those who witnessed the incident explained to them what had happened to the possessed man and to the swine. Then they began to beg him to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. But Jesus would not permit him, but told him instead, "Go home to your family and announce to them all that the Lord in his pity has done for you." Then the man went off and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what Jesus had done for him, and all were amazed. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Nakakita na ba kayo ng sinasapian? O gusto ko sanang tanungin, nasapian na ba kayo? And sometimes we would joke of our friends who are acting differently, sabihin natin sa kanya, mukhang nasasapian ka. No? The gospel that we read today talks about or gives us an idea kung ano yung nangyayari kapag merong exorcism. No? I'm sure you have heard of this. So if not, you have heard about exorcism, siguro napanood nyo sa movie about what happens during exorcism. In the gospel that we read, mahaba-haba, it tells about the story of of a man who has been tormented by demons for a long, long time. And that when he saw the Lord, he saw the opportunity to be freed from what tormented him sa napakatagal na panahon. And he asked the Lord to be freed from that. To cut the long story short, he asked for help, and when the Lord exorcised him, liberated him, freed him, there were lots of demons. In fact, the name Legion, who rushed out of the man and went to the pigs, and they were drowned. Exorcism is something that is very dramatic in the gospel that we read today. In fact, ganun din kapag merong exorcism na nangyayari, very dramatic, and because it tells about the war between good and evil, the war between God and then the devil. And it freed the man from what has been tormenting him for a long, long time. Wala naman po sigurong nasasapian sa atin dito, kasi kung hindi, meron nang nagsisisigaw dyan. But we know very much that there are many things that would torment us, that would keep us from becoming who we are and what we are in the face of God, to become the child of God that we are supposed to be. There are many things that would torment us, keep us apart. In a way, in the gospel that we read today, yung sinasapian was not living among the living. He was living among the dead, in the tombs, set apart, unclean, not among the living. And one of the things that happened to him after he was liberated, freed from the devils that tormented him, is that he was able to come back and to live among the living again. In a way, we are also like that. We are burdened by so many things. There are so many things that keeps us apart from God. There are so many things that would keep us apart from following the Lord. And what is that? It can be our own selfishness. It can be our hold to power. It can be arrogance. It can be anything that actually keeps us from following the Lord. It is something that would keep us apart. It keeps us living in the tombs, separate, abnormal in a way. Kaya nga, kahit na hindi ganun kadramatic yung pangangailangan natin ng exorcism, whether we like it or not, may mga bagay na kailangang i-exorcise sa sarili natin. Yung mga sinabi ko po kanina. It can be selfishness, can be arrogance, it can be an inordinate hold to power, to pleasure, anything that doesn't put God in front of many things, of anything that we would desire. So these are the things that in a way would be exercised or should be exercised out of us. We have our own demons to deal with. Diba? May pang-araw-araw. It can be anger. It can be something that burdens us. So kaya kahit na hindi ganun kadramatic yung exorcism na mangyayari sa buhay natin, but lahat naman tayo nangangailangan ng exorcism one way or another. It might not be as dramatic as was described in the gospel that we read today. Ang isa pang maganda doon sa binasa nating ebanghelyo is that one mark of being exorcised is that the man from whom legion was taken out started to follow the Lord. Perhaps this is one of the most concrete way that we are freed from what burdens us, because it allows us to follow the Lord more closely and more intently and more genuinely and more authentically. Totoo. Kaya nga, after being freed from the devil, the man said, I would like to follow you. At anong sabi ng Panginoon sa kanya? No, you go back and tell everyone about about the good news that you receive. My dear friends, when we receive also that kind of good that the Lord would do to us, ganun din naman yung hinihingi sa atin ng Panginoon. Don't just keep it to yourself. Don't just keep it among yourselves. Go back and preach the good news that you experience. My dear friends, in the Gospel, we are told about exorcism. Ang magandang tanong, ano kaya ang sumasapi sa atin sa mga panahon na ito? What burdens us? What keeps us apart? What doesn't allow us to follow the Lord in a more concrete way, in a more authentic way? Kasi kapag maroon, kailangan natin ng exorcism. Kapag ganoon, sinasapian tayo one way or another. And when we experience the Lord working in our lives, it is the same instruction. Go back and tell the people about the good news that you have received.